What's up, guys, and welcome to the most authentic, transparent, and real estate investing channel on YouTube. At least that's my goal. If you're new here, my name is Lili, and this channel is where I've been documenting my real estate investing journey and bringing you guys along with me from all the steps from house hacking to wholesaling to now buying and renovating my own houses. This video is actually episode 2 in a series that I'm doing and bringing you guys along with me as I renovate 6 units this summer. Yes, you heard that right. 6, a combination of some duplexes and single family homes, and we are going big right out the gate. The question you're probably asking, and the reason you clicked on this video, is because you're wondering, how the heck is she funding 6 renovations at once? And of course, how could you get funding for your own deals? Well, you're in the right place because I'm going to completely break down 4 different methods that you could use to fund your property renovations. We'll break down all the numbers, talk about the pros and cons, and all the things that you need to know so you can get into the house flipping game. So I encourage you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil, put your phone or your laptop on Do Not Disturb, and stay till the end because this video is gonna be jam-packed with knowledge. And if you stick with me and do the math with me, you'll see that you can actually start flipping houses a lot sooner and with a lot less money than you might think. And if you're wondering where you can find distressed properties in the first place so that you can renovate them, me and the sponsor of this video have you covered, because if you don't have PropStream yet, you gotta get on that. As an investor, your focus is finding distressed properties and getting as much information on them as possible, and that's where PropStream really shines. PropStream's an online tool and database, and I genuinely use it every single day in my real estate investing business, which is why I have no problem recommending it to you guys. I've used it when driving for dollars, like you saw in episode 1 of my wholesaling journey. I use it to pull lists of distressed properties, like you saw in this video. And I even use it to find and build relationships with people who might end up funding my deals, like you saw in this video. So if you haven't yet, you gotta use the link in my description to get a free 7-day trial so you can start playing around in PropStream and really see how it could take your real estate investing business to the next level. So with that said, and a big thank you to PropStream, let's get started. So as we go through the 4 methods that you can use to fund your deals, we're going to use this imaginary property right here to run our numbers on so that the numbers of the deal stay the same from strategy to strategy, so you can see how the strategies themselves differ. We're also not going to talk about things like holding costs or capital gains taxes, because again, those things will be the same from strategy to strategy, but we want to know just how do the numbers that are different from strategy to strategy work. So we'll get into it in a moment, but just keep that in mind. Don't blow me up in the comments section talking about you forgot to talk about closing costs and realtor fees and all that stuff. We know. All right, so we're saying we could buy this distressed property for $100,000. And if you think $100,000 is high for your market or low for your market, just stick with me. $100,000 is a good number to do math with. That's why we're using it. So $100,000 purchase, and let's say that it would take a $60,000 rehab to get this thing into the type of condition you want, and you've got an ARV of $200,000. That ARV stands for your after repair value, which means what will this property be worth after you're done repairing it? And that $200,000 could be determined in 2 different ways. If you're going to actually flip this property and sell it when you're done, well then $200,000 is the value that you think someone would buy it from you for. So in that case, it's the sales price. But on the other hand, if you're not going to sell this property and you're going to renovate it and keep it as a rental property, well then at that point, instead of selling it, you would get something called an appraisal done, and that's where a professional comes out and evaluates all of the things that you did to fix up this property and tells you what they think it's worth. So either way, whether you're going to sell it or you're going to keep it as a rental and get an appraisal, your ARV is your after repair value. In this case, we're going to call it $200,000. So again, $100,000 purchase, $60,000 rehab, $200,000 after repair value. And method number 1 is to do this deal with straight cash. The Dave Ramsey method. If you've seen this video right here, you know I don't like his methods, and I'll probably have a bunch of his minions in the comments telling me off for the things that I'm gonna recommend, because doing a $160,000 cash deal is probably not realistic for most people, but we are gonna go over it because it's gonna give us a good baseline to base all of the other methods in our numbers off of. So let's get those numbers down, stick with me for a moment. So let's imagine you've got $100,000 to buy the property, $60,000 to renovate it. So you're all in for $160,000, and when you're done, the property's worth $200,000. We've got that. Now in a perfect world, if you sell this and there's no fees or taxes involved, you'd make $40,000. Your $200,000 ARV minus your $160 that you put into it, you've got $40K left over. So the first thing we want to do so that we understand how cash deals different from the other methods we're going to talk about is calculate our return on investment, or what you could call your ROI. What you want to do is take the amount of money that you're going to make from this property. If it's a flip and you're selling it, you take the amount you make on the sell. And if it's a rental property, you take the amount that you make in cash flow per year. So for now, let's just focus on that $40,000 as us selling the property. So we take that 40 grand, and to get our ROI, we divide it by the amount of money we put into the deal. So in this case, that would be the $40,000 profit divided by the $160,000 we spent to purchase the property and to renovate it. And that equals 0.25, or a 25% return on investment. That's really not a bad investment. Most people say the stock market returns somewhere around 7% per year. So 25%, that's a really good flip. You make 40 grand. Now, of course, you're gonna pay taxes and closing costs and stuff on that, but for now, let's ignore all that stuff. And obviously, coming out of pocket $160,000 in cash is not realistic for most people. So another thing that you could do is, instead of paying 100% of the cost out of pocket cash, you could go to a bank and get a mortgage loan for this property. And let's say you put down 20% and have the bank put down the rest of that 80%. So this means on that purchase price of $100,000, you put down 20%, which is 20 grand, and then you take a loan from the bank for $80,000. Now you still have to have your $60,000 to renovate the property. So you get 20% down, 80% mortgage loan, and then you put another 60 into the deal. So you've got 80 yourself in, 80 from the bank in. Now, an $80,000 mortgage from the bank at, let's call it, a 4% interest rate is going to cost you somewhere around $550 a month, or $3,300 for, let's call, a 6-month project. When you sell, you'll still make the same $40,000, but this time your numbers are going to look a little bit different. So let's break it down. You sell and make that 40 grand, but remember you had $3,300 of mortgage costs involved. So you'll actually come out with $36,700, ignoring stuff like the capital gains taxes and closing costs. And this time you didn't put 160 grand into the deal. You put 80 grand into the deal and borrowed 80 grand from the bank. So you take that $36,700 you made and divide it by your 80 grand that you put into the deal. That gives you a 0.458 return, or a 45.8% return, which is a lot higher than that 25% because you leveraged the bank's debt to give yourself a higher return, even though you made $3,300 less than you would have if you put 160 grand of your own money into the deal. We won't go too much into the concept of leverage in this video, but this is a perfect example of why people say that real estate investing, and particularly borrowing money to invest in real estate, is good debt. Paying that $3,300 in mortgage costs takes your 25% return to a 46% return. It also means that instead of needing $160,000 of your own money to do this, you need $80,000 of your own money to do this. So you can see that leverage is super helpful, but most people probably also don't have 80 grand sitting around. So let's go on to method 2, which is using a hard money lender. Hard money lenders are companies that work almost exclusively with real estate investors to purchase distressed properties. Where a bank will give you a long-term, low-interest loan, a hard money lender is going to give you a short-term, high interest loan. So for our last example, we said that the bank is going to give you a 30-year mortgage at 4%. A hard money lender is going to give you a 6-month mortgage at 12%. So at first, it doesn't make sense why anyone would use a hard money loan, because they are way more expensive and you have a time crunch for how soon you have to get your project done. But the benefit is they're created for real estate investors to get a higher return, and they give you more flexibility in the strategies that you want to use. First, let's talk about the numbers, then we'll talk about the different strategies that you can use with a hard money loan. Similar to a bank, a hard money lender will give you about 80% of the purchase price you need to get a property. So same deal, you put down about $20,000 to purchase this $100,000 property. But unlike a lot of banks, most hard money lenders will also fund 80 to 100% of the renovation costs for your project as well. One of the properties that I'm flipping this summer is being funded by a local hard money lender who's lending me 80% of the purchase price that I need and 100% of the money I need to rehab the loan. So for our example, example, on this $100,000 house, that means that you only have to pay $20,000 at closing to buy this $100,000 house, and then you'll also be getting $60,000 additionally lent to you by the hard money lender to do the renovation. And before we get more into the numbers, I'll just pause here and say that this is why I'm so glad I started wholesaling first, because wholesaling is a very low risk way of getting involved in real estate investing. I find the property, I hand it off to an investor for a fee, and I get to learn so much about that process. But if after I hand that deal off to the investor, their roof collapses or they find something wrong with the plumbing, that's not on me because I've already sold that property. So it's very low risk, but many wholesalers, myself included, are making $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 per deal. So just a couple of wholesale deals can get you not only the experience and connections you need, but also the money so that you can make your down payment and then use something like a hard money lender to fund 80% of the purchase price and up to 100% of the rehab you need. So back to our example, the hard money lender is going to give us most of the money we need to get this project done, but they usually charge 10 to 12% interest plus 1 to 2 percentage points in fees. So for our example, they're lending us $80,000 purchase, $60,000 for the renovation. So a total of $140,000 at, let's say, 12%. So $16,800 a year, which is $1,400 a month. And if this deal takes us 6 months to complete, that's $8,400 that we're going to pay to the hard money lender to get the deal done. But remember, we also have to pay them, let's say, 2 percentage points, which is basically an upfront fee for them to lend us this money. So that $140,000 that they're lending us, we take 2% of that. That's $2,800 on top of the $8,400 we're gonna pay them in interest. Ouch. But we can't stop there. What does this mean for our return on investment? Let's say we sell for $200,000, so we've got a profit of $40,000, but we have to pay back that $8,400 of interest. So that puts us at $31,600. Then we also have to pay our 2 points, which was $2,800. So now out of that $40,000 sale, after we pay our hard money fees, we're left with $28,800. But we only had to put $20,000 in. So we take that $28,800 that we make, divide it by just the $20,000 we had to put in, because the hard money lender lent us the rest, and that gives us a 1.44 or 144% return on investment. With this one deal, we've made more than we actually had to put into the deal. That 12% doesn't seem so bad, right? To compare it to our original all cash deal where we made $40,000 but had to put in $160 versus this case, we made less. We made $28,800, but we only had to put in $20. Which one seems more realistic for most people? And to take it a step further, using a hard money lender lets you use something called the BRRRR strategy, which is something I talked more in depth about in this video right here. The basic idea is that instead of using bank financing to purchase the distressed property and then renovate it, you use a hard money loan to purchase the distressed property and renovate it. And then when you're done, you don't sell the property. Instead, you now get bank financing. You use the hard money loan first, and then you go to the bank and ask for something called a cash out refinance so that you can take the bank's money and pay off your short-term hard money loan. And now you have that long-term, low interest rate, 30-year mortgage. You rent out the property, the rent from the property covers that mortgage, you've paid off your hard money loan, and now you cash flow each month. That might sound a little complicated, but for now, check out this video where I talk about it more in depth. And in a future episode of this First Time Flipper series, I'm gonna break down all of my deals and why I think they're such good candidates for the BRRRR strategy rather than selling them once I'm done with the renovation. But to keep on our track with 4 methods that you can use to fund your deals, we've talked about cash, maybe not that realistic, hard money, which is made for real estate investors to purchase distressed properties. So once you have a few wholesale deals under your belt, you've got some experience and some capital to put down on the property. Not that hard to find a hard money lender to work with you. That is what they do. But method number 3 gets even better, and this is working with a private money lender. Where a hard money loan comes from a company that works with investors, a private money loan comes from a wealthy individual. You might think these people are hard to find, and I did too, but when I started out wholesaling, I found that I was making so many connections with local investors that they could also connect me with their private money lenders. And some of the investors that you're going to be selling deals to Also do private lending as well, because it's a way to stay involved in real estate investing, but it's not as active as actually being out there making all the decisions. They can just loan the money to you, you go do the rehab, and they still get paid in the form of interest. 2 of my purchases this summer are being funded by a private money loan from a person that I met during my house hacking and wholesaling journey, stayed in contact with, and built a relationship with. Because private money loans are between 2 individuals and not necessarily official companies, the terms of those loans are completely negotiable and up to the people involved. A standard agreement might be something like 10% interest with no fees or points. So for our example, let's say the private money lender will fund the same amount as the hard money lender, 80% of the purchase and 100% of the rehab, or $140,000. So we're paying 10% on that $140,000, which is $14,000 a year, or $1,167 a month. And for the length of our 6-month project, we're gonna pay $7,000 in interest. So when we sell the property for $200,000, we pay back our hard money lender the $140,000 we lent them. We pay back ourselves the $20,000 we lent them, and we've got 40 grand left over. But we still have to pay the hard money lender back their interest. So we subtract $7,000, we've made a $33,000 profit. To get our return, we divide that profit by the $20,000 we had to put into the deal, and that gives us a 1.65 or 165% return on investment. That's even better than the 144% return we've got with the hard money lender, because generally private money loans don't have as many fees and points attached. That's why private money is generally referred to as cheap money, and if you can build relationships with the investors and lenders in your market, private money is going to save you a lot and help you get a higher return on your deals. Now, method 4 is the one that I'm really excited to talk to you about. So if you've stuck with me this whole way, this is a true treat, because it's something that I did not learn until very, very recently. When I first started learning about real estate investing 4 or 5 years ago, I thought that residential loans were for properties 1 to 4 units. So talk about house hacking using FHA loan for a triplex or a fourplex. Cool. And anything above 5 units was going to be a commercial loan. And I was like, I can't even think about that yet. I'm still at this level. Let me think about what are my options with residential loans. And that's what we talked about earlier, putting 20% down. If we don't want to go that route, we could talk to a hard money lender, a private money lender. But I recently found out about a commercial loan that is made for the BRRRR strategy. And remember, BRRRRing means that we're not going to sell the property at the end of the renovation. We're going to rent it out and do something called a cash out refinance. So keep that in mind. But generally, these commercial loans will still fund the same amount as our hard money and our private money lender. 80% of the purchase, 100% of the renovation. So we still put in the same 20% to purchase the property, but here's where things differ. The commercial loan is set up as a 6-month interest-only period while you're renovating the property, and then it automatically converts to a mortgage, a long-term, low-interest rate mortgage that you would typically get when you go to the bank to buy a property. But the interest rate is the same that entire time. So let's break it down, because I think this is pretty cool. We're borrowing that same $140,000 that we borrowed from the hard money lender and from the private money lender, but this time it's at the same interest rate as our eventual long-term mortgage. Let's call it 4.5%. So instead of 10% with private money, 12% with hard money, we've got 4.5% with our commercial loan, and 4.5% on that $140,000 loan is $6,300 a year, or $525 a month. And for the 6-month period of our project, it's $3,150. And remember, instead of selling this property for $200,000 and making 40 grand, the bank's gonna send out an appraiser and hopefully say that the property is worth that $200,000. Now in this case, the bank usually gives you 80% plus fees. So that means that $200,000, they're going to give us 80% of that in what's called a cash out refinance. So 80% of $200,000 is $160,000. We borrowed $140,000 during that 6-month interest-only period, so we pay that back. That's paid off. We put in $20,000 of our own money, we pay ourselves back. That's done with. Plus, we've now got the $3,150 of fees that we have in interest. We also get that back because it's generally 80% plus fees. And so now we have an infinite return. What do I mean by that? So here's how the infinite return works. The bank looked at the property, it's worth $200,000. They give us 80% of that in the form of a cash out refinance. So we get that 160 grand to pay off the short-term money. That $160,000 cash out now becomes the amount of our mortgage to pay back over the next 30 years. And so that mortgage payment will be somewhere around $1,000 a month. Let's say we rent out the property for $1,500 a month. Now we have a cash flowing rental property. We can still set aside $200 or so a month for future vacancy or repairs. So now we have a cash flowing rental property that's paying off our mortgage, making us, let's say, $300 a month or $3,600 a year. So that's what we make a year. And $3,600 might at first be like, well, I could have been making, 40 grand if I sold it. But $3,600 a year divided by what we have left in the deal, which remember is zero. When we got our cash out refinance, it was 160 grand. We paid back the 140 grand we took as a short-term loan from the bank, and we paid back ourselves the 20 grand that we put in as a down payment. So what is our investment left in the deal? Zero. I remember this from math class that you cannot divide by zero. And so in this case, that cash flow we're making every year is an infinite return because we have none of our money left in the deal. And once you really get into all this stuff, you'll find that there's some really cool ways to combine some of these methods. You can use a hard money loan or commercial funding to pay most of the money you need to purchase and renovate the property. And then you could take a small private loan to pay the down payment portion you need. And that's why people are able to get 100% funding, because they're combining different creative strategies. But you gotta know about them first, and you've gotta work the math out so that you understand how leverage works and how these returns are working. The options truly are endless. It is 100% possible, and that's what I hope this channel is showing you guys. Like, I'm giving you everything. Like, I'm just showing you what I'm doing and how I'm putting these pieces together, from house hacking to wholesaling to now renovating and BRRRRing properties, because you can figure it out and you can make it happen. But it's not easy. Episode 3 of this series is coming up, and I'm gonna talk to you guys about all the things that are already popping up and going wrong with the property renovations. So if you appreciate this look into how it actually works and how it actually starts, then please don't forget to change the color of the like button, turn on notifications so you don't miss episode 3, and I'll catch you on the next one.